want to ask Task Minister for Defence the target date for the Permanent Defence Force to reach its approved strength of 9,500, and if he will make a statement on the matter. And we know that it was a historic low, despite your white paper target of 9,500, where the numbers have dropped now below 9,000, are going to continue to drop. And again, I'll reinforce the point that the mandarins in your department there's a new position created, an Assistant Secretary General for People. You're beefing up the internal bureaucracy, and there's numbers falling year on year. You need to address the matter.
Ministers, 2 minutes.
The Government remains committed to achieving the strength target of 9,500 personnel for the Permanent Defence Force as set out in the White Paper of Defence 2015. There are a number of factors, some of which are hard to predict, which will impact on the time frame within which will be achieved. Recruitment has continued in 2018 with the running of 2 general service recruit competitions, a cadet competition, apprentice competitions, instrumentalist competition and direct entry streams. This has resulted in over 600 personnel being inducted to date in 2018. The most recent figure provided by the military authorities give the whole-time equivalent strength of the Permanent Defence Forces at just below 9,000 personnel. Further inductions are scheduled in November, and final figures for numbers inducted in 2018 and strength will not be available until the end of the year. Recruitment progress will be reviewed in the coming weeks, and this will inform future plans. As I have previously outlined, particular challenges exist in recruiting and retaining certain specialists such as pilots, air traffic controllers and certain technicians. These specialists can prove difficult to retain, as in the current economic circumstances there are ongoing lucrative private and commercial public sector job opportunities. I understand that the retention of such specialists has proved challenging for many military forces internationally, and it is not unique just to Ireland. A range of alternative recruitment approaches are being developed aimed at addressing vacancies in specialist areas. My department has introduced a scheme which permits former officers and with special skills to re-enter the PDF, and arrangements are in train to provide a similar scheme for former enlisted personnel. Currently, there is direct entry provision for those with professional qualifications, which is utilised for the recruitment of medical officers and engineers. A working group is examining the scope for greater use of such direct entry recruitment for certain specialist posts. As the Deputy will be aware, the Public Service Pay Commission has been tasked with examining recruitment and retention issues in the Defence Forces sector, and requested material has been forwarded to the Department of Public Expenditure and Reform. With the Public Service Pay Commission reports, its findings will be considered at that point. The PDF force continues to offer excellent career opportunities for serving personnel and for new entrants. Ensuring that the terms and conditions of serving members of the PDF are fair and balanced is also a key consideration.
The remainder will be in the official report. Deputy Chambers.
Minister, you mentioned the Public Pay Commission, and we know last week Vice Admiral Mellett, Chief of Staff, has now have to offer his own perspective, his unique insight, because all the recommendations he made to you and to your department were completely ignored in your submission, a complete failure of this government. And what we're going to have next year potentially is the Pay Commission coming back with recommendations that won't address the serious issues of recruitment and retention. As of this year, we had 30% of the numbers of recruits who left who purchased their discharge. That's doubling in 2 years. We have a massive exodus from the Defence Forces, and in addition to that, you've not clarified in your response when you'll reach the White Paper target. The White Paper target was set by Minister Kehoe. Under your leadership and tenure, it's going in one direction, and it's going away from its target because of the failure to address recruitment and retention policy. We also have an issue around the loss of expertise and experience. You can't recruit your way out of this issue. Numbers that are leaving year on year, and their experience is being lost to the organisation, which can't be replaced. And even the recruits who are now entering are purchasing their way out under your leadership. And you mentioned the Public Pay Commission. It's a pity you ignored all the recommendations from the Chief of Staff, and he has to make such public pleas.
Minister to respond.
I have full confidence in the Pay Commission, and I do understand that your own party signed up under the Confidence Supply Agreement, signed up to the Pay Commission as well, and the Public Service Pay. I do understand that. So I presume you'll be on the one page and that you're not going against your own.
Minister, please.
Well, the reason why there was no recommendations in the Department of Public Expenditure and Reform came back to us and said they didn't want recommendations.
Stop, please.
Yes. There was, yes, and they came back to us directly after that because there was too much in the public domain, because there was a document that was put into the public domain that the Department of Public Expenditure said that they did not want recommendations made, that they wanted hard data, and that is exactly what they got from the joint submission, was a data analysis that they looked for, and I'm delighted that both Department and military has come up with a joint submission. The Chief of Staff himself has described that submission as a very robust submission to the Pay Commission. I'm looking forward to the Pay Commission reporting back in due time, and then the government can consider
Final supplementary from Deputy Chambers.
You've mentioned hard data. I'll give you some hard facts. We've 66 members of the Navy sleeping on Navy vessels while inshore because they cannot afford to rent a home. That's the bare facts. That's the bare data. And recommendations were made from the Chief of Staff that would give light to the issues in the organisation. They were dropped by the mandarins in your department. And just so you're clear, mandarins is an appropriate term. It can be replaced with bureaucracy, and you won't shut me down or tell me what's in the confidence supply. You contradicted your own previous statement where you said that there were no recommendations will be made, when in fact you, under your leadership, had made recommendations for pilots in the Air Corps. So you have complete contradictory policy. You allowed recommendations in one instance and then ignored them when it came from the Chief of Staff's office. So that's a complete contradiction. And I'll define what's in the confidence supply. I won't have you as Minister or Government. Fianna Fáil is absolutely clear that we've absolute commitment to the Defence Forces, to their pay, to their conditions, to the retention issues. And we know under your tenureship in the department that it's going in one direction, away from the White Paper target of 9,500. And you've even failed in your contribution today to set about when you'll achieve that target.
Minister to respond. 1 minute.
Because actually in your pre-budget submission the Defence Forces wasn't even mentioned, or the Department of Defence wasn't even mentioned. So that gives a very clear commitment to your commitment to that is true. That is true. That is true. I feel it document myself. The other thing is, your party has signed up to the confidence supply, and within the confidence supply is a public sector pay. So I presume you have signed up to the public sector pay as well. You're part of that. I want to get to the full establishment number of 9,500 as soon as possible. I would love to do it, but I'm far if we have. No, I don't believe 20 years. No, I would hopefully. I'm not going to put a time frame on it, but it is a priority for me to make sure that we get to the full establishment of 9,500 as soon as possible. It's one thing that I work with my military colleagues to make sure that we get to that number. But what I want to state to you, Deputy, is that this government has provided the financial resources for a full establishment of 9,500 for the Defence Force management to get to that full establishment, and to have my absolute full support in that. And I've stated that to them on numerous occasions, in that we will broaden the recruitment capacity. We have in discussions about expanding the capacity in Gormanstown, looking at providing additional instructors. So, I have given the Defence Force management the full support and whatever is required to get to the full establishment of 9,500 personnel.